Long ago, in a distant kingdom, there lived a young man who led a life full of hardship. He had no family, no possessions, and no social standing, only his hands and a determination to survive through honest work. Each day began the same way. He woke up early and walked from village to village, looking for any kind of job, digging, carrying water, lifting heavy goods, anything that would earn him a small amount of money to get through the day. Whenever he was lucky enough to find work, he used the meager payment to buy some rice and vegetables for dinner. After eating his simple meal, he would return to his modest bed, a worn-out mat in a corner, and rest before starting the next day's search all over again. Life was repetitive, tiring, and lonely, but he never complained. Despite his poverty, the young man held tightly to his values. He believed in hard work, honesty, and living without cheating or stealing. He often told himself, "Even if I have nothing, I still have my dignity." He had no big dreams, only the quiet hope that if he remained honest and hardworking, someday, life would reward him in its own way. Then, one day, as he was walking home empty-handed after yet another fruitless search for work, fate took a sudden turn. He crossed paths with a stranger, an encounter that would change the course of his life forever. As the young man walked home, his feet aching and his stomach empty, he heard a gentle voice behind him. "Excuse me, young man, is there anyone here willing to do some labor?" He turned around and saw an elderly woman standing beside the road. She was dressed in plain clothes and appeared frail, yet determined. Next to her were 3 large, heavy-looking bags. "I can help," the young man replied politely. The old woman nodded slowly. "I need to get to the next village. It's a bit of a distance from here. I can carry 2 of these bags, but the third is too heavy for me. If you carry it for me, I will pay you 3 gold coins." The young man was surprised by the generous offer. Without hesitation, he picked up one of the bags, but immediately felt its weight press heavily against his shoulder. "This bag is really heavy," he muttered. The old woman leaned in and whispered, "Yes, it's filled with bronze coins." Though the task was harder than he expected, he didn't complain. He adjusted the bag and began walking alongside the woman. As they traveled, he noticed that she kept glancing at him out of the corner of her eye. At first, he found it strange, but then he thought to himself, "She probably worries I might run off with her bag." He smiled faintly. "Let her watch. I won't betray her trust. I work to earn what's mine. I don't steal." So they continued walking, one step at a time, with the sun setting behind them and the journey just beginning. As the sun dipped lower, casting golden light across the path, the two continued walking in silence. Soon, they reached a river with no bridge in sight. The young man stepped into the shallow water and began crossing carefully, balancing the heavy bag on his shoulder. When he reached the other side, he turned and called back, "Come on, it's not too deep." But the old woman didn't move. She stood at the edge of the river, looking troubled. "I'm too old," she said, shaking her head. "I can't carry both bags across without slipping. If I fall, I might drown. Can you carry one more for me? I'll give you 3 more gold coins." The young man hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right, hand it over." But as he reached out, she paused and said softly, "Promise me you won't run away. This bag contains silver coins." The young man looked her in the eye and replied firmly, "I'm not a thief. I've never stolen a thing in my life. I earn what I deserve, not by cheating others." She handed him the second bag, and he carried both bags across, placing them gently on the grass. The old woman followed slowly behind, leaning on her stick. They walked further until a steep hill appeared ahead. The climb looked tiring, especially for someone her age. As the young man began the ascent, he noticed she had stopped again. "I can't go up carrying this last bag," she said wearily. "My legs won't manage it. Will you carry it too? It's filled with gold coins. I'll pay you, but you must promise not to run off." Slightly frustrated, the young man said, "I've told you, I'm not that kind of person. I value honesty." After a pause, the woman handed him the last bag. "Then go ahead," she said. "I'll follow at my own pace. Wait for me on the other side." With all 3 bags in his hands, the young man began climbing the hill, unaware that the real test had just begun. As the young man climbed the hill with all 3 bags, heavy with bronze, silver, and gold coins, he could feel the weight pressing not only on his back but also on his thoughts. The old woman's repeated doubts echoed in his mind. Each time she handed him a bag, she had asked him to promise not to run away. Each time, she reminded him of what the bags contained, as if testing his character. At first, he felt slightly insulted. Why does she keep doubting me, he had thought. I've done nothing wrong. I'm just trying to earn an honest wage. He remembered his previous job as a bookkeeper for a moneylender. The owner had pressured him to manipulate accounts, to cheat people out of their money. But he had refused, even if it meant giving up the job. He had chosen to live poor, but honest. I'm not doing this for greed, he whispered to himself. I carry these bags because I gave my word. Still, something about the woman's suspicious glances unsettled him. It made him wonder, has she been betrayed before? Is that why she doesn't trust anyone? Despite his irritation, he didn't argue with her. Deep down, he knew trust wasn't something you demanded, it was something you earned, slowly, through action. And so, even with all her doubts, he kept walking, step by step, determined to prove that not everyone gives into temptation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the young man finally reached the top of the hill. Just ahead, he saw the old woman's house, a small wooden cottage with a warm light glowing through the window. He placed the 3 heavy bags carefully by the door and waited, wiping the sweat from his brow. Moments later, the old woman reached the hilltop, breathing heavily but smiling. You didn't run away, she said, her voice gentle and almost surprised. I told you I wouldn't, the young man replied, still catching his breath. I'm poor, not dishonest. The woman looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. She stepped inside the cottage and returned with a small wooden box. Opening it, she took out not just 3, but 9 gold coins and placed them in his hands. I promised you 3 coins for 1 bag, she said. But you carried all 3, and more than that, you carried them with integrity. The young man stared at the coins, stunned. Why? He asked. Why did you trust me with so much and still test me so harshly? She smiled. Because trust is not built on comfort. I've seen many people who look kind but steal when no one's watching. I needed to know if you were different. He stood silently, the coins glinting in his hand. Money is a heavy thing, she continued. Not just in weight, but in how it burdens the heart. You carried it without letting it change you. The young man looked up, eyes steady. I only took what I earned. She nodded again. Then perhaps you've earned more than gold today. As he walked away from the cottage, coins in his pocket and the stars rising above, he felt lighter than he had all day. Not because the weight was gone, but because he knew he had passed a test of character. Several weeks passed. The young man had used the coins from the old woman to rent a small room, buy food, and begin searching for steady work in town. Though he spent modestly, each time he looked at the remaining gold, he was reminded not of wealth, but of the journey, the doubt, and the choice he had made to stay honest. One afternoon, while helping sweep the steps of a local inn, he overheard 2 merchants talking. Did you hear about the woman who lives alone past the hill? One asked. You mean the strange one who gives gold to travelers? The other replied with a laugh. She's not just any old woman. They say she used to be a banker's wife, lost her family in a robbery years ago. After that, she started testing people, giving them coins, watching how they act. No one knows her real name anymore. They just call her the weight giver. The young man's broom froze mid-sweep. A quiet chill ran through him. He realized now, the journey hadn't just been about moving bags. It had been about proving something to her, and perhaps even to himself. That night, lying awake, he replayed everything. Her suspicious tone, her tired eyes, the way she handed over the last bag with both caution and hope. He had been frustrated, even slightly offended, but now he understood she was not testing his strength, but his values. And then it struck him. Most people go through life chasing rewards, avoiding burdens. But the heaviest burdens, responsibility, patience, integrity, often carry the greatest rewards. He thought back to when he was asked to cheat in his old bookkeeping job and how walking away had made him feel like he had lost everything. But here, through carrying what wasn't his, resisting the temptation to keep it, and still fulfilling his word, he had found not only gold, but something far more valuable: the quiet strength of self-respect. In the weeks that followed, the young man changed. He worked harder, not for riches, but to earn trust. His employers noticed. Slowly, word spread. He's honest. You can count on him. Years later, he saved enough to open his own shop, a modest place, but well-loved. Above the door, he hung a simple wooden carving: a hill, a walking stick, and 3 small bags. When asked what it meant, he'd just smile and say, "It's a reminder. Character is what you carry when no one's watching." And somewhere, beyond the hill, in a small, quiet cottage, the old woman surely smiled too, knowing that one more soul had learned the weight of honesty and chosen to carry it well.